Please, wait! We cannot open these doors without the Conclave's approval.
I think we can. I have a key.
That's not what I...
Corporal,
Sir?
I am one of the kings of Illyria, am I not?
Yes, sir.
Which makes me very important.
Of course, sir.
Glad we've cleared that up. Now shut up and stand aside.
But, sir...
A wise decision, Second King Leo Whitefang. You are far more capable a human being than I initially suspected.
Hey, enough chit-chat. I'm here to introduce the man who's going to get us out of this. Dr. Paradigm.
Explain yourself, Leo.
Dr. Paradigm is one of the heroes who saved us from extinction during the Baptisma 13 incident.
He appears to be a gear. Do you mean to tell me this is the collaborator Kai mentioned during the UN conference?
That is correct, Mr. President. I'll explain the details later. I'm afraid we don't have much time.
Right.
Right now, our top priority is to locate the cradle and destroy it. To do that, we need the good doctor's assistance.
The assistance of this bird?
I am a dragon, sir, not a bird. As this is a state of emergency, I will let your insult pass, but I hope I will not hear you make the same mistake in the future.
Paradigm's knowledge and throughput exceeds that of our entire operations department. I suggest you listen to what he has to say.
All right.
I see you're all here. Good. Now please pay close attention. I assume you have all seen King Kai's report regarding the cradle. Specifically, you know that the Conclave is behind it. They are working in concert with the Valentines, and we believe that their objective is to unleash Justice, who is within the cradle.
I still can't believe the Conclave would do this.
Yes, there is much cause for concern, but first we must investigate where the cradle appears and how we can destroy it.
And you know the answer to this.
Just hear him out.
The first incident occurred around noon on the 28th, when the cradle appeared above Babylon. All living organisms in the city were obliterated, but inanimate objects were left unharmed. Then the cradle disappeared.
Right.
Then, at approximately 2000 hours on the next day, the cradle reappeared near the Black Sea. Major Lyle's forces engaged it, but were defeated. There are several important facts here. First, where did the cradle disappear to? Second, why was only living matter affected? Third, how is it possible that some members of Major Lyle's unit survived? If we examine this information, we can see that the cradle is not only a vessel for justice, but also for the Conclave.
Now just wait a minute there, Doctor. You're suggesting the cradle is some kind of ship for the Conclave? That wasn't in the report.
We know that there are living organisms inside of the cradle. My hunch is that they are human.
Every nation on Earth is currently analyzing the data we have. But so far, I've seen nothing to corroborate your argument.
That's because your probes are only designed to detect life, and your analysis tools are not designed for this sort of data. Filter out the noise, and you'll see signals that indicate life, even if you can't spot the occupants themselves.
Even so, that's not enough to draw a conclusion.
I was going to address this later, but since you've asked, perhaps I can adjust my presentation.
Please.
The core issue here is how the cradle attacked Babylon. as I considered it, I began to suspect that it was not an attack at all, but rather a mode of transportation.
I'm sorry, but would you please elaborate on that?
Very well. First, it was initially theorized that the cradle disappeared in order to avoid pursuit, but that makes us ask, was that in fact teleportation?
What else would it be?
True teleportation would require the object to reappear elsewhere almost immediately. But the cradle was gone for nearly 32 hours.
Moreover, there is no known process which can teleport such a large object.
Then where the hell did it go?
The backyard.
It really exists then?
I do not blame you for doubting its existence, but I can assure you it does. I have in fact entered the backyard.
I thought the backyard was just a theory, an academic exercise. Why would the cradle go there?
The answer to that is simple. Even with the doctor's knowledge, it would be nearly impossible for us to enter the backyard.
I see.
That said, travel to the backyard is actually quite simple, at least theoretically. First, one must exchange a portion of the real world with a corresponding area inside the backyard. Then place the cradle within the borrowed portion of the backyard. And finally, simply return both areas to their original worlds. The sphere we saw that appeared to be an attack was in fact the rapid expansion of backyard space into our own realm.
That doesn't explain the disappearance of all the residents of Babylon.
This brings us to my second point. Are you aware of what happens to a normal life form when it enters the backyard?
Oh no.
Oh yes. They turn to dust. The backyard is composed of high-density information. It governs all of creation. Any normal creature is immediately crushed by that wealth of data. That said, it has no effect on any non-living matter.
Which is why only living creatures in Babylon were affected.
That is why I believe said sphere was an intrusion of the backyard into our realm. Now, on to my third point. Major Lyle's unit was initially assumed to have been utterly destroyed, but in fact proved to have survivors. The Opus anti-Valentine units that had been deployed for the attack also survived the sphere.
According to the testimonies of the survivors, they were touched by the sphere, but able to escape it. We did a little research and discovered that every single one of them had something in common.
What was it?
Every one of them fought alongside Kai Kist during the Baptisma 13 incident.
When the first-generation Valentine attacked Illyria, all our defenses were useless against her. Why? Because their divine steps and their magic were too foreign. They belonged only to those who dwelt in the backyard. The High King was able to grasp this and eventually lead his men to victory. To protect them, soldiers under his immediate command were given a unique blessing.
And it worked?
Quite well.
Then the Opus are also under this blessing?
We suspect that to be the case.
Oh, not exactly. We've done a little research on our own, and the Opus are mostly Gears.
What the?
We Gears also fought against Valentine and were able to resist her power even without a special blessing. No doubt the Sanctus Populi noticed this.
But research on gear cells has been banned by the UN. This is an enormous problem.
Mr. President, please. This is a serious issue and something we must carefully investigate. But for now, perhaps we should keep it a secret.
Perhaps you should both calm down. The Opus have been dispatched across the world to help. I doubt we'll feel much scrutiny immediately.
Even so,
I think this means I'll have to bump. It's not you, it's me. Down to number 2 on my list of things I wish I hadn't heard.
I'm afraid that sort of thing is beyond my expertise. You will need to figure out the details among yourselves once we've overcome this crisis.
Ugh.
We've gotten a bit sidetracked, but I believe we can state that the mode of transport for the cradle caused the casualties at Babylon. Returning to my original point, if it is true that people can board the cradle, then this hypothesis seems even more likely.
Tell us everything you know.
As I've explained, subjects that have been properly prepared can survive in the backyard for a period of time. But it is akin to, for example, space or the deep ocean. You could survive for a time, but not indefinitely. Eventually, everyone must come back for a breath.
I get it. That's why the cradle reappeared. It all makes sense.
Well done.
This is the gear King Kai told us wished to coexist. I fear I may have criticized him prematurely, without seeing the whole picture.
Don't be too hard on yourself. I did the same thing.
What do we do now? As long as the cradle is in the backyard, we're at a loss.
That is not necessarily true. Do you recall King Leo's words when we began? Our end game is the destruction of the cradle. Therefore, we must change the way in which we approach this problem. They have removed our avenues of attack because they fear an attack. Now is the time for us to turn the tables. Unfortunately, with our current weapons and lack of time, we cannot touch the cradle once it begins to move, when it begins to enter the backyard. Therefore, we must assume that the next time it comes up for air will be our last chance to strike. With that in mind, allow me to lay out our operation. We have narrowed down the next location where the cradle is likely to surface, as well as when. We will surround this point with elite teams from every nation. The moment it surfaces, we tighten the circle and launch the attack. Our goal is to destroy Justice, who is within the cradle.
Amazing, Doctor. After 2 defeats, morale was at an all-time low. But your insight has given us new hope.
You flatter me. My ability to rally your men was only possible because you have encouraged acceptance of other species.
Damn. Well, I'll be sure to double my support for coexistence at the next UN hearing.
Yeah.
We don't have much time, though. If Kai and his team can make it, they'd be a powerful asset. But I don't know if they can get here fast enough.
We've no choice. No doubt Ramlethal's diversions took into account the locations of Frederick, the High King, and the Cradle.
Our biggest problem now is the absolute defense Felion. If we can't take that shield down, all of our firepower will be useless.
I've already devised a countermeasure for that. They're in for an exciting surprise.
You seem prepared for everything. In fact, you seem to know an awful lot before I came to release you. How did that happen?
Ah, yes. Before you came, I had another visitor who filled me in on all the details.
But the room is impregnable. I've got the only key.
Perhaps it is impregnable to any normal person, but my visitor is in fact my trump card for the cradle. Though I worry how Frederick will react.
Dr. Paradigm? We have a President Vernon on the line.
Excellent.
We've prepared the old beacons just like you asked. We just need to place them at the coordinates you gave us, correct?
Yes. They will be placed at 10-kilometer intervals with the projected entrance point at the center. Be sure to deploy them all.
We're happy to do everything we can, of course, but are you certain this plan will work?
We will make it work. Our projected entrance point has a nice view, but there are no landmarks to speak of. Additionally, we expect it will take approximately 22 minutes for the, special delivery to arrive. We cannot sit and wait for the cradle to appear.
Understood. We're requesting all nations relinquish their airspace to us. They aren't pleased, but once Zep is in position, we should be ready.
Excellent, thank you.
Doctor, just what are you planning?
Stupid bird must be out of his goddamn mind.
You really gonna do this?
This job's got my name all over it. Hell, it could be worse. Just chase my ass and he's not telling us what his trump card is.
This is what you'll be taking tomorrow, sir.
Right. Might as well enjoy my trip through the sky, I guess.